Hello everyone, let me start the server and then we can start the session. So I will close some applications that don't need them. And then we'll be ready to start. It's not for it's not for this session. Okay, so yes, yeah. Now we are ready. Hopefully that okay. For some reason it wants to. Let me check if the server works fine. And then we will start. Okay, so it stopped. Let me start again. Ports are not occupied. So starting. And okay, now the server is fine. Okay, so the plan for today, yeah. So the server is on. Maybe let's double check if all the customers and the libraries and the books can be loaded from the database. Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Also, before your final project presentation next Friday, please also before you present, please also double check if all the things work fine. So the demo to be done the best way. Okay, yeah. So the plan for today is to create the logic for the loading from the files, where we can link actually two instances: the instance of the books and the instance of the libraries. So basically, we will provide the list where we will load the linkage between the libraries and the books. And in this case, today you will see why do we need the external IDs, because maybe some of you did not understand it, and that's fine. Maybe for the first sight you don't understand why you actually need this external ID. If I just simply have the name of the book or the name of the library, then I can just simply load it, and that's it. Yeah, so it's loaded in the database. Why do we actually need the external IDs? But the case is quite simple. As you may understand, of course, the usual users who do not write the Excel, JSON or XML files, right? So it's normally done by the computer program. Yeah, it's not done by humans normally. and yeah, so it's done by the computer program. So it means that these files are also generated from somewhere. So imagine you have two systems. You have the system which, like in this case, let's imagine that's our system. In this case, that's my computer, my system, with this database which is stored here. And yeah, so I work with this data. But for example, in this case, for the libraries, we have lots of libraries, and maybe each library will have its own database, or maybe not library, but we may maybe have some different systems where these entries can be entered, like the books, the customers, and so on. And yeah, so the key point here is that in our system we have our own IDs. So that's fine, and we have them. But other systems, they also have their IDs. And of course, when we exchange the data in between the systems, we cannot only rely on the names. And so we should also have special identifications. Yeah, so in this case we use the external IDs as the identifications to be exchanged between the systems. Like in this case we just simply create the XML, JSON and CSV data, but on practice it's done by the computer logic, and each system have their own IDs. So, and what will we do in this case? In this case, so as you already know that in corresponding XML, CSV, and JSON files, we provided the external IDs. So for each library specified for each library, for each book specified in the files, we have the external IDs. So, and now the question may be, how can we create such file where we will link the libraries and the books? Because by default, as you may understand, so just let's imagine that we link them by names, but so if we provide the names, in the files, and so then we link them just simply by names. But that's not good approach. And okay, just maybe the information for you, the suggestion for you: never use the strings, the names, the titles as the keys, because that's not safe. You may have some duplicates. It's the same way as you use, for example, your name and surname as the key, because even in Latvia, I'm not sure in Latvia, but say in Latvia, we may also have duplicates by name and surname, even if you and your mother have the same name, then you will have duplicates in this case. So of course name and surname cannot be the key, so you have your own personal ID, and that may be the key. The same is for the library. You cannot rely on the fact that the libraries will have unique names, that they should have unique IDs. The same is for the books. So if we talk about books, they also have their own IDs. So in this case, it's not the option for us to create to use CSV, XML, JSON files with the names. We should and we will use the external IDs. And so instead of providing the names, we'll provide the external IDs. And basically, this is the place. This will be the case where we will actually use the external IDs for the identification. Maybe also the question from you, maybe why don't we use the simple ID? And the answer is quite simple, and this is what I just said, that the information usually comes from the different system. Yeah, so different system does not know the ID stored here. And also, maybe if we are users, then we may also not know, not the users, but those who create these files, and the computers. If this is done by the computers, which create these files. The computers and maybe ourselves, they do not know the IDs used in this system. So, but they know the external IDs used. So in this case, that's why we provide the external IDs. And also the entries, yes, you see here we'll also we also have the external IDs for the corresponding entries here. So the reason is the same, that we also provide these IDs here. And so in fact, we actually have the let's say two key systems here. One is for the internal keys used by this exact system, and one is the external ID system, which is used by other, which is taken from other systems. Alright, so then let's do it. I prepared the files, and maybe I can also share these files with you. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to share these files. Right. So this is for XML and JSON files. So these two, and yeah, this is for CSV as well. Okay. So yeah, now we will create the program which will load these entries to the database. So, and the sequence is simple, the same as we did before. We will create another button here. Eclipse. So again, for the file loading, we use load from file JSP. Load from file JSP, and I will create another button here. Oh, no, no, yeah, actually, you can. That's where was it? It's Chrome. Oh, yeah, here we go. So here we have the form for the file loading, and then we have the output. Okay, then I will do the same. The same here. Right. Input form, libraries, box. So the action remains the same because we'll load the same page. So then the way will help us. So books, libraries. Okay, maybe let's keep the same naming, the same sequence. Otherwise we'll have libraries box and those libraries that won't work well. So let's say books in libraries. So then the input will remain file, then there will be file path libraries box. And the same is here. We'll have the float button. Let's open it. That's a little bit confusing. I have two Chromes. One is for the external machine. So it's not a little bit confusing for me. But okay, let's load. Let's refresh, and now we should see the button. So that's good. Now we can select the file from the same library. Okay. So now we can create the logic which will actually parse these files. So as always, I will start with one file. Maybe let's start with JSON file. And then the concept will remain the same. So we start at request processing. So we send the request from here. We select the file path, then we go to the post method, which is under the load from file class. And so here I can actually go to post methods, check which button is pressed. Which button is pressed? Okay, here I have libraries. I can basically do the same for why don't we have file paths for books? Oh no, we have. I was a little bit confused. So that's fine, and add it down. It doesn't matter, and here we have file path libraries box. So we check if the button is pressed, if the parameter is provided. File path box, and now we can start the processing. So we have input processor, which sets us the extension, right? So that's good. We have file path. We have, I guess we also have file content, right? So this we don't seem to care about it. And for now, we need to process box fibers. So will actually work here, and so here I will have the. I try to stick to the approach we used before. So maybe let's check this linkage we have here. Because actually, what's good for this approach, what we currently do is not good, but what we try to achieve, we try to reuse as many methods as possible. And so for your projects, that would also be great if you find a way that you reuse your logic in so many different ways. So you don't create multiple similar select queries or multiple similar methods. You can. It's better to achieve the optimization that you write as less logic as it's possible to achieve the same result. So let's check. I want to double check what other structures we use for the libraries and the box. I guess we have this. Oh yeah, here we have set all groups for libraries. And what did I have? A separate method for the book library. That's for one library. It's to add. I want to show. Oh, no, actually, okay. I will create the map. I will create the map structure, and this will actually map the library and book and library. But what's the yeah, there's one problem I don't like, that for map we actually have one key and one value, but we have 3 fields. So maybe what will I do? I will stick to the approach of using the list, and I will. Yes, we don't have such. Oh, now we have such structure, book library, and so there are too many things already created, so I don't remember them all. But that's fine, and I will also adjust the structure with the external ID. And yeah, actually I will also create one more constructor. Do the overloading of the constructors, and we'll provide the external ID as the additional parameter. Okay. Well, yeah, actually I can accidentally use L vector because that's because the shortcut Control L. So L, that's the code formatter in IntelliJ ID I use, and that's why I sometimes use Control Alt L instead of Control Shift F. That's just a habit. So for this, yeah, of course, let's use lowercase here, and yeah, let's also add L here. Alright, so now we adjusted the structure, and of course let's also use setter and getter. And yeah, actually now we'll need to use setters and getters. Because we use this structure differently. Set book, set external ID, set the library ID, and set library name. So we've done as well. And then for the getter, let's get also external ID. So now the structure is adjusted. Why do we have the warning here? We should not have, right? So that's good, and then I will simply use the list of the structure. Structure book library, and let's say I have libraries books, and then I can also create a method. Box, and here I also need the libraries box. So now I will also need to create this method. And let's go to this method. This input processor. And yeah, so now I'll create this method. List. So this method will be used for all the file types. So I use encapsulation here, and yeah, so let's do query structure. So and that was go to it here. And also into this we need to throw input output exception, and now from the file processor I will need to then return, so something like that, and I will return get let's say that box libraries. We don't have such method, but we will now define it. So just simply go from top to down, because we will not do any adjustments after that here. So then we have file processor, and the file processor is file type. Yes, so we go now here. Yeah, why do we actually need this input processor? Because this input processor will it is responsible for the control of the file types of the file contents. So it's easier to have this like the buffer class, which links the actual file types. If we have these actual classes used for the files, CSV, XML, JSON, with the front-end servlet pages we have, and so that's why it's better to use it. So and yeah, so let's go to file type and define the methods. Copy paste the method name. And also output is libraries library list, and yeah, that's also output method, because the logic is different for all the files, and of course it throws input output exception. Oh no, it does not. Sorry, it's not the right one. I guess it won't. Yes, it won't trigger input output exception. So we don't need to use it. Maybe just to make more formatted. Let's maybe add it here, so we have all the abstract methods defined in row. Okay, so does it complain? It should not complain anymore. Of course, we need to add the semicolon, and I guess we don't need this input outputs. Oh no, we need because we have read file before we actually get the content from the files. So this is done now, and now we need to implement the logic in the files. So first we'll create these methods to escape the error. So we need to implement these methods. Here, there is no class. There's no class. It's fine. Excuse me. So, and then the last is here. Okay, let's check why do we have the warnings here. Because we don't really need the warnings. Oh, no, that's because we have writer class here. Okay, so let's remove the writer class. Yeah, so the warnings, these are not the problem, but if we can remove them, then we better do it. Though they do not affect anything. Okay, so now we can start. Maybe let's start with JSON file this time. So from the top, everything seems to be fine, and now let's implement logic. So the idea here is simple. Again, we need to parse the content. So, and what will I do? I will do something similar we have here, but with some differences. So we'll start. I will simply do the adjustments here. So we'll start with the definition of the variable as usually. So at the end we can return it. Let's go. It's lagging out a bit, so but now we can. Let's. We can rename it. It doesn't matter, but let's keep it and change it here. So first of all, we start with the JSON object load. So that's what happens as usually, and now we should do adjustments here. The main file, as you can see from the main element, the main object, as you can see from the file I sent to you is oh, sorry, it's not correct. I will adjust it. So a moment, I will adjust it to box libraries. Right. Because the name books is not really correct. So I will create adjustment here. Name books libraries. So that will be the main element which will be loaded here. And yeah, that will be the array with the entries. So arrays, and here we go. Then the concept is the same. We'll go through all the entries and set the entries to the list. And here we have new book library. Yeah, there will be one interesting thing here. One interesting thing, because you can see that that's interesting. You can see that we do not we only need the yeah, that will be next step for us. We only need the internal IDs of the libraries of the books and libraries to be entered to the output list. But what's the problem? The problem is that for now we know the external IDs only, and this would be hold on. Yeah, we don't external IDs only. So first of all, what we need to do, we need to find their internal entries, their internal IDs for these libraries. And that's why I will need to use an additional method here, which will actually fetch these entries for the for our files. So then I'm going to protect it because we'll use this method in subclasses, and this will be protected. What we can actually do. Yeah, we'll return this book library entry, and then I'll say get book library by external ID. And then what do we need to provide? We need to provide book external IDs. Provide book external ID, and then we need to provide the library external ID. So this will not be abstract method, because the implementation will be the same for all the subclasses. Yeah, and here we actually need to use the database reader, so I will use library database manager. Also for Eclipse, the nice feature is that it suggests a name for the variables. Also control the exception. Oh no, maybe I'll go to this. Let's maybe throw the exception in the parent method. Yeah, so and now we need to read the libraries by the corresponding external IDs. And so what do we have? We have, as you remember, we have the method here which fetches basically everything what we want. But it's maybe not what we actually need in this case. So actually, let me think. Yeah, but we definitely will need to create a new method here. So, and this would be list. Oh, a moment, so we can, I think if we, no, it's just simply useful one. Yeah, maybe in normal case we will need to, let me think about it right now. Yeah, so let's maybe use the list, and we'll see why. So maybe just a little bit for a moment, I think. All entries. Yeah, what's the problem? The problem is that I will have multiple such entries, and what I don't like is that if we do the select query for each entry. Yeah, but what's the problem? If it means that, let's say, if we have 10 entries in our file, then the select query will be called 10 times. Of course, that's not the best approach to be used from the performance point of view, because the call to the database is quite expensive from the performance point of view, and that's why we better select all the entries at once. And for this case, we need to write special select query, and this will be called select moment. Select using in. So moment, let me quickly double check the select query. We have multiple entries. Where in was still one moment. So I'm quickly checking the okay. So yeah, we'll return list libraries, and this will be get all box libraries. And the interesting thing here will be that we'll also provide the list the same list, and this will be quite I would say quite C language approach, that we pass the reference and we change the reference. In this case we'll do the same, and we'll call the library the variable box libraries. And yeah, so basically what happens here I will I'll need to use the select query. So first, what will I select? Yeah, I'll select all the possible entries. That's 2, and hold on. One moment. We have so many. Remember we had this large selection query with inner joins, and this is what I actually want to repeat here as well, because we also need the names for the libraries, not only the names for the box and names for the libraries, not only the IDs. So one moment. I remember, where did we have this? Oh no, actually we have this image. Okay, so that's fine. So we can do the same here. Yeah, actually image will not be quite complicated. So we will select all the entries. That's true from box libraries. And that's correct. No, hold on, not from box libraries. Actually, yeah, it is. So then we will create a query here. So we will call the query from the box and from the libraries table. So one moment, and we'll have 2 queries. So that will be the first statement for box. So, and this will be that I select from box without inner join. Oh no, I will use inner join. No, we're not. We don't need inner join. So that's fine. So from box, where book ID equals book ID, but book external ID. So moment, let's open the table. Yeah, so we now select from all the entries from the libraries and all the entries from the box, and then we fill the corresponding structures. So moment, yes, we have external ID here. So I don't actually need the author and date published, but that's fine. So I have book ID, but it's external ID. And here will be one interesting thing. I want to have to select for all the books IDs provided here. So what I actually what I actually do. One moment. Yeah, that will be a quite interesting structure. We want to go through all these entries, and for each book and for each library we want to get the ID. So then this would be quite interesting thing. So a moment. This one here. What we'll start with? Let's maybe to make it easier, I will create the map. No, not the map, but I will create another list. I'll start with another list. Simply the list of integers. And this will be book IDs. So this will be the array list. And I will put all the IDs, external IDs. So external IDs, so we work with strings. External IDs of the books to be selected. Hold on a moment, let's maybe do the following way. We'll create the map. And then we will map the external IDs to the internal IDs we have in the system. So that will be map. And this would be string to external ID to internal ID. So and now we need to first we need to fetch all the libraries, all the books. Okay. This way. So first what we need to go through all the books libraries. Actually, I can do the same for the. We'll need the same for the libraries, external libraries. So that's why I start with the iterate. As always. And the iterator will take all the no, that will be iterating book library. So go through all the books libraries provided here and then we'll fill these structures partially. We'll fill the keys, but we'll not fill the values, because the values will then select them from the database. So, oh no, not this one, books, libraries. This structure, and this structure, but this list. Iterator. Iterator has next. That's the next entry. And then we will. Yeah, actually, sometimes such. We'll do it for the performance improvement. And sometimes such approaches may require some original decisions. Okay, so this is done, yeah, so now I can fill the map structure. So remember that the keys are unique in map structure, so we can briefly put the value. So the key will be the external ID of the book. That's an interesting thing. We don't have it here, so we may actually adjust it as well. So we may keep some fields empty here. That's fine. Book external ID. Then we have library external ID. So actually, maybe let's create the initial constructor here. This will actually have some interesting things. So let's create setters for these fields. Yeah, actually, structure becomes quite long, but basically we need to store the data somewhere. So let's store that. Warning, we have the warning here. No, we don't have warning anymore, so now we can get the external ID of the book, and then at this point we'll keep the value as null, but later on, once we select the value from the table, we will also add them here. So there is one interesting thing. Let me think. Yeah, well, later on we'll also need the names, but okay, then we'll do it. Yeah, I agree that maybe the structure for this one is a little bit complicated, but yeah, so then let's do the same for the libraries, for the library external ID. And now I guess we are ready to create the query, and the query will be that we have this external ID and to be honest, I don't remember the prepare statement. How can we actually parse the parameter here? But I will. Moment. Yeah, so that's the populated query. By popular query in a moment. Let me quickly check. Yeah, actually, one moment. Yeah, we will prepare this. Yeah, well, that will be quite interesting. But what will we do? Let's create the string builder. Here we want to generate the prepared query. And the problem is that right now, for when in, we need to know how many elements do we have. But in this case, we don't know. So we need to generate this query. So let's create a string buffer. That would be box query builder. String buffer, and actually this will look the following way. will be we need to generate as many question marks as we have the entries for the library. So how will it look like? I will need for I, so I is, oh, I is less than number of the book keys size, and we'll increment I. And yeah, so now we will append the question mark to the query. Question mark. And one more thing, we also need to append the comma. And basically the comma you can append it at the beginning, but so we don't need the comma for the first one, for the first question mark. So then I was done with boolean first one. We'll skip the first one. First line, true, and so if we are on the first line, then we do not append the comma, otherwise we will append. So that's a single line. We have else. Okay. So and this here I can actually append this selection query. Selection query append this query we just generated. So this is box query builder, and we parse it to string. And then we need to maintain all these question marks, all these parameters. And these will be the external IDs of the book. So again, I would need to go through all the entries I now have in the book. Well, of course, need to iterate it first. Iterator of the box. And that would be the box, the book, yeah. Iterator box. So we'll get it again from the collection of the books, from the map structure we have for the box. This one. So for the keys then, we're working with the keys. Yeah, of course, from the key set I need to get the iterator. And while iterator has next, we go through all entries. So here. Oh no, yeah, we don't need the book, we need just the external ID, and some external IDs from here. So that's correct, and basically right now we just simply need to fill the corresponding prepare statement parameter. So again we start 1. This is the parameter counter, for the counter is we'll start with 1. So maybe we can also start at we can start at 0 and then just increment at the beginning. So we'll see why do we use it. So increment it first, and then we set it to the return statement. So let's this one, and we set string, and the parameter number will be corresponding to right here, and the value will be the external ID, which will be taken from the next entry of the iterator. Okay, so, and this will be done for all entries. So now this is done, and we actually can now execute the query. Execute the query, hope that's correct, and so yeah, and right now let's now we need to fill all the entries we receive from a query. So before I start, I also want to have the names of the book. So to have the names, again, what I do, I need to create another map. Fortunately, I need to create another map. And this map will actually just simply map the ID and the name of the book. Hold on. Hold on. Actually, I have one. Yeah, I guess that should be fine. Have the name and the ID. So, and this would be book names. So, tree map. Of course not. Let's click. And the same for the tree map definition. Tree map. So yeah, so now we should fill this entries using the result we have here. So I'm gonna go through all the results and then we will do it here. So while it has next, yeah, so we have several points here. First of all, we can actually we can fill this structure, box name. And we put the so that's the problem here. Box name. That's the same. Book names. Actually, book's name. Or maybe box names. That's really fine. Okay, then let's put the element, and then we'll get the set, and this would be get integer, and the column name is book ID. Let me just double check what was the exact name. So I used underscore. Oh, don't, that's just simply ID. Okay, so that would be ID and then the name. So set get string, and this would be the name. So then, so the structure is filled. Then we have another structure where we actually map the external ID with the ID internally using database. So then we have both external ID, and here I will again put the value. This will override the value I used before. So I will have the ID here, and actually I will get the string which will be external ID. So I'll map external ID to the internal ID. Okay. So now what do I need? I guess I have nothing more to need here. So now we're done with the reading for the box, and then the next step for us is to do the same for the libraries. So, and for the libraries again I will use copy paste here, and I will need to adjust these strings for the libraries. So first I'll have this libraries query, and we'll use the similar approach. So I'll say the first one is true. We go through all the libraries, and then we map. Then we prepare the query. So that would be, yeah, as you can see, it's the logic for the linkages is a little bit more complicated than just simple logic where we enter the separate units like books and libraries. So, and let's do the same here. I'm pretty much sure that we'll have some mistakes here. That's fine. We'll later on correct them. So, and then for the box set of the box, we need to read the libraries here. And of course the query will be the one we built here. So, and then again I will do the same afterwards. I'll have to iterate all those. I can have libraries. And it's the same here. And it's so here again I continue my preparation of the statement. Oh, hold on, so it's not the iterator I used here. First, this is the iterator I need to use. Parameter, yeah, so we go through all the parameters, and then I execute this external ID word statement. Okay, then I fill the statement. Prepare statement instead of the one I used for libraries. Or for both. Okay, and now we have that same result set. Then I'll have the statement for libraries. And execute queries, then I do the same for the libraries as I did for the books. And then I can actually put the same entries and for the libraries instead of these right. Okay, maybe let me double check if the names are correct. Yeah, we have ID and we have external ID. So that's good. That's good. And okay, maybe before we go to the break, the last step is that we finally maintain these entries we have in the list. So the main idea is that all this data we know here will be provided to the list. So, and here I will then use the same iterator as I used here. Will not define it. And again I will go through all the libraries we actually fetched from the file. But right now I know the IDs for them, so I can briefly set the name. Set book library. Let's set the name. Set book name. Oh yeah, and I would take it from the mapping I had. Books. External IDs. So I know the external ID already. So I will get it by object key, and the object key is the external ID we actually know. So this would be get both external ID. Oh no, actually, okay. So one moment, we'll start with the book ID. This is the integer book ID. So it's going to be the following way: we'll get the ID, then we will get book name, and book name may be choosing the mapping we have for the book's names. So that's the book name, and now we can read the book name by book ID. And so now I can set the name of the book and the ID of the book. So let's put them here. Oh, that's fine. Okay, then also let's set ID of the book. Set book ID. This is the one, and then the same for the library name for the library. So we have library ID, and this will be taken from the mapping between the libraries, library external ID and the library internal ID. That library external ID, and then the string will be library name. And now we'll set it to the book library. Set library ID. And then set library, set the library name. That's so, and now we have all the data needed for our internal CRM usage, or for our internal system usage. So, and actually, since we use the so-called C approach, I don't need to return the new library. I can use the same one. I don't need to return a new list. I can use the same one. So, and actually, I can do it in this way. Since I don't, again, please remember that if we use get, then it usually means that the method will return something. In this case, it just simply sets the IDs and the names for the books. So it will happen here. Okay, let's have 10 minutes break, and after that we will continue building this logic here. So let's continue. Yeah, so now we actually set, maybe I will remove all because that's maybe not what is relevant in this case. So, and now based on the external IDs, I will actually know all the names and all the internal actual IDs for the libraries and docs. So I have the wing message here and the rest, okay? And I need Constructor as well. Okay. Okay, that's fine. And so where are we now? We are here under JSON. So why we have command is yeah, that's because okay, so here we don't use this method. So we will actually use the method we defined there, so there's no need for this method in the middle, and then I will also remove the library I don't use. Okay, so then the idea is that, yeah, that's correct. I will enter the entry. So I have this library box, so I'll have this library box